All fun and games!
Hi friends, Season 2, Episode 3 of All Fun and Games with one of the most complete musical talents in the country. Jack, how are you, brother?
Buddy, I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
You're looking fit, you're ready, mate.
I'm feeling pretty good. Well, you've inspired me. The last time I saw you was the beginning of...
That was going to be my first question.
The madness.
Yeah.
So, you know, I guess you have two choices, don't you? Or maybe I just had one choice.
Maybe.
Just to make the best of this situation. So I thought, straight out of the gate, I had to lose a bit of weight.
Wow.
And had to be creative. So mate, thank you. Thanks for that acknowledgement. It's been a crazy little...
Well, it's worth mentioning because the last time we were in a room together, and for those watching, we're shooting this in the middle of November. It was the middle of March.
Yep.
We're doing a gig. Mm-hmm. And this COVID, and COVID had been a thing for a couple of weeks. We'd sort of discussed it, but it wasn't really real, and it wasn't going to impact us too heavily, or so we thought.
Yeah, couple of weeks maybe.
We're doing a gig, and then you're about to go on, and we hear that we're actually getting shut down. And so we had half an hour of sort of shock of sort of going,
it was horrible.
How are we going to close our businesses and not gig and all that stuff for what we thought was going to be 6 or 8 weeks.
I know, right?
Or in the middle of November, and here we are.
Yeah,
but
I know.
You haven't wasted your time.
No, well, Reggie was there. It was you, Reggie, and I, and Reg said to me, he goes, "This is how I'm going to show up for you, mate. This is what I'm going to do. I want an idea from you a week." And I think he perhaps may have underestimated. Look, he was making an effort to probably spare me from going a bit cuckoo, because I'd moved out to the country and I was on my own, and he goes, "I want an idea a week, and we'll just work up the ideas. We'll just kind of, we'll just take it easy. But I want an idea a week." Well, look, we're 30 songs in, finished now, plus this Vault campaign, this sort of unreleased, and we've got 3 volumes of that. There's 2 Jack Jones ones and an Owen Thomas one. There's a full Owen Thomas record, a full Jack Jones record. It's so weird talking about. I guess if you were in a band, you'd say the band name and then the solo artist name, I suppose. Yeah. But so we've definitely tried to make the most of the time. Reg was out only a couple of days ago, but yeah, look, we really had to just make the best of it, mate. Because what else are you going to do?
And right? You did. And the stuff, for what it's worth, the Vault, it is brilliant. It does. If anyone watches this, it absolutely deserves your attention. You'll go first.
Is it really?
Yeah, you can go. I think the guest goes first.
Well, look, take your best shot. I've played this since I was about.
Let's go nuts. Well, I've been practicing hard, so I win. Let's go back to the year it was about 1990 or thereabouts.
Yeah.
And you had wicked hair.
Oh, well.
It was flowing.
Clearly I'm wearing a hat today, so that tells
shiny,
you everything you need to know.
It was, it had everything, your hair. Yeah. And we could probably do an episode just on your hair, it was that good. But anyway, so at that time, John Farnham, who's like the doyen of vocalists in Australia, and at the peak of his career, you're not even 20 years old and you end up in his band. How is that even?
So, okay, so... It's funny because I was just talking about him the other day to someone. I was like, this guy just isn't human. He's just not. Anyway, I was in a Van Halen cut. So when I was 14, there's a whole history before I was 14 and the band, but we don't have that kind of time. So basically when I was 14, I saw Virgil Donati on a this thing called the Don Burrows Collection, and it was like a jazz kind of thing late at night, and it was usually Australian or international artists would come and play on this show, I think it was on the ABC or something like that. And I saw Virgil Donati playing with a woman his name is Linda Cable. Anyway, I looked at the TV and I was like, I'm going to play in a band with that guy one day. I'm going to do that.
At 14?
At 14, I was just like, I'm going to play in a band.
How long had you been playing at this point? How long had you been?
I started taking lessons when I was 11, properly. So, when I say properly, that was when I was doing at least an hour a day, and some days I'd get up, 3 hours before I went to school and practice, and then I'd come home and my mum had photos of me on the bed, with the guitar, and I'd be asleep. And
you must have, and sorry to interject there, but you loved it that much that you were prepared to just dedicate everything.
Yeah, and look, I think...
Was it love? I mean,
it was love, and the thing that music kind of gave me was, I mean, not to rag on where I grew up, because where I grew up was a great place, but you know, musically there was a ceiling there, and as far as like career paths go, there was, you know, like if you weren't going to do A, B, C, or D, then you know you probably had to get out of there to explore any other options, you know. So for me, it was a bit of a ticket to, and also more than getting out of where I was growing up, it was more getting into a community of people that, you know, that are like my peers that I really wanted to kind of hang with and have just become part of this sort of musical community, I guess. So, you know, I was practicing pretty hard. I was working pretty tirelessly, and I was in a bunch of little bands and stuff, and we were doing a lot of different things. So I was pretty much just living, eating, breathing, sleeping music during that time. And I saw Virgin. I was like, I'm going to play in a band with him one day. Anyway, I'd auditioned for this band called the Cutters when I was 14 as well.
Right.
And that band actually had Virgil Donati in it. And that came out of this, when I was slightly, just before, like when I was a bit, like 12 or 13, I used to get the train to Melbourne every Saturday morning, and I used to hang out in the music stores. I'll tell you the whole story, I might as well, because this is how you get to the end of it, right? So I used to get the train. I get up at 6 in the morning, get the train to, from Gippsland, the train to Melbourne, and I'd just walk around the city. And I'd find Allen's, and I found Brash's, and then there was Davis Music, and I'd just go and hang out in these music stores, like until I think the 1:20 train went back to Traralgon.
Wow.
So I met these guys that worked in those places, and I met a guy named Jeff Wright, and anyway, eventually over time and stuff, he was quite a mentor for me. He used to come up, and then I'd spend the weekend with him and his wife and stuff, and he'd jam with guys, and he'd take me along to these jams, and anyway, eventually he said, there's this guy, Virgil Donati. I'm like, I know who he is. He's in this band called the Cutters, and they're looking for a guitar player. Wow. I'm just this pimply-faced kid from Gippsland. Like,
were you identifying as a guitar player at that point?
Yeah. So for me, it was like, that was what I wanted to do. Like, I just wanted to be a guitar player. I didn't even want to think about singing in a band. Yeah. To me, singing was just like, if I could sing a bit, I'll probably get that gig playing guitar with
over the guy that can't.
Yeah, pretty much. That was it. Yeah. So I auditioned for that. I mean, it just must have been ridiculous. The manager must have looked at me and just thought, what's this kid doing here? Yeah. Like, he's not even old enough to get into a venue.
Yes.
How can he end up being in our band? That's my go. So, so anyway, I was like, I auditioned, I got the call, was absolutely devastated that I didn't get the job.
So you thought you were going to get it?
Well, I just lived into this possibility that it was going to happen for me, you know. So I was like, oh, I can do this. But anyway, it wasn't meant to be, and so I went to America for a little while, and then I came back. When I came back, I got a gig playing in this cover band in Melbourne, and then I went into another cover band, and from that, I got a call from this guy, Virgil Donati, one day, and he goes, I'm putting a Van Halen cover band together. I hear that you're a great singer. Would you like to be the singer in it? And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be the singer in that band. I said, I can't sing, man. I'm not the singer for that band. I'm telling you now, I couldn't sing that stuff. I said, but do you have a guitar player? Because I'd love to be the guitar player in that band.
Wow. So you were Eddie Van Halen and not David Lee Roth at the time.
I just thought, there's no way, you know, I don't know how. I was thinking to myself, but I would have done anything to be in a band with that guy. Yeah. So I didn't want to give up the opportunity, but I also knew that it was probably beyond my capabilities as a singer to do that, to serve that.
There are a lot of high kicks and spandex as well in that role, potentially. Well, it's not just the vocals.
I can feel the hammy just, yes. You know, it was that was also Sammy Hagar days. Right, okay. So those songs are, you know, like Dreams and stuff. I'm like, are you kidding me? Who even told you that I could sing this stuff? Yeah. However, I wanted the opportunity to play with him, and he said, he goes, well, look, I've got a guitar player, but and in Virgil's style, he would always he was always hunting for young cats that he could kind of, we'll say groom. That's probably not a great word in this culture, but to really develop, you know, and he was always looking for young, hungry cats to play, you know, to play with. And
well, you were certainly hungry.
And any opportunity that, you know, I would take to work with him. So I auditioned and I got the gig. And anyway, about a year later, we were doing, and so I didn't really sing. I sang a few BVs, so Virgil's never really heard me sing. This is so cliche.
But you're still doing the Eddie Van Halen solos in this band, and how old are you at this point?
So I'm 17, 18.
So even that's still pretty spectacular, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not easy parts.
Yeah, I never thought, I think that I was, because I'd never even really listened to Van Halen before I got that gig. I mean, it was through that I really became, obsessed with Edward's guitar playing, through that. But it was a real enigma to me because it was a whole genre of music. I mean, I was into Steve Vai and guys like that, and before that I was into guys like Larry Carlton. And but I just wanted to work with him. Yeah. So I would have done any work that it would have, anything that it required.
You would have worn any spandex.
I would have done it. Yeah, I even wore my cowboy boots on the outside of my jeans.
Wow.
So basically, I get the gig playing guitar. Our singer's sick one day at sound check, and I sing a couple of songs. And Virg just pulls me aside and goes, "Mate, come out to the car. I want you to have a listen to some stuff." I was like, "Great." So I had a listen to some songs, and he goes, "We're looking for a singer in this band." At that stage, they were called The State. There was a whole bunch of stuff that was going on, sort of record company politics, or I don't know. There were things. The record company was getting a bit lukewarm on the band, and Phil had started writing with John. So all of a sudden, he'd sort of heard his songs get taken to another place with a greater range, I guess, sing with a greater range.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I went into the studio and, recorded 6 or 7 songs, of which I'd just found on a cassette 3 days ago in my lockup.
Wow.
This cassette, I don't know if it's even going to survive putting it in a cassette player. It's been there for 25 years.
This is the Vault Volume 4.
That's right. There'll probably be a vault in that. It's brutal. It's brutal.
This is how you do it. You distract the guest,
All right.
And away you go.
So I'm going to give that one to you as well, probably. So anyway, as fate would have it, I end up getting this gig playing in the band. And then, as fate would have it, Brett Garsed, I mean, it took 2 of us to replace him, in John's band. He was off playing with Nelson and doing a bunch of other things in the US. And all the planets just aligned, all these things converged, and all of a sudden, I was doing the gig that, it was ironic, really, because, I mean, the true irony and what was lost on me at the time was I always wanted to be the guitar player in someone's band, or the MD. That's who I was growing into as a kid, studying guitar. I never wanted to be a rock star or a pop star, or I never wanted to be the front guy in a band. Yeah. But again, you know what? I would have done anything to play in a band with Virgil Donato. Yeah. So I ended up being the singer in that band, but essentially that was the trajectory to me playing in John's band, which was really that was all I wanted to do. Yeah. That was the greatest sort of, it's not all, but that was my dream as a kid growing up.
And you're still not even 20 and you're there.
Yeah. Yeah, really, when you look,
because that's a gig that everyone would have wanted, right?
Yeah, and not only that, down from there.
And very few are good enough to do it, and the fact that you do it at that age is quite remarkable. Yeah, so it was essentially then your gifts as a singer were essentially discovered by Virgil.
Yeah, and then I had to just grow into it, and I think I've really only just now, I can honestly say in the last, and full circling back to the beginning of our conversation, this whole COVID time. Yeah. Even though in 2002 I made The Evolution of Ráv Thomas, and that was probably the real genesis of me starting to come into my songwriter. Right. Within, part of me as that part of my artistic palette. You know, that was probably really when I felt like I was starting to come into my own.
Okay.
But then again, in this last sort of year, doing it all over again, sort of rediscovering that, and this thing with Reg, like Reg and I have just we've really reconnected, which is an incredible experience for me, because we've stayed in contact during the whole time since the Suns, you know, peaked and troughed, and so he and I and Reg and Verge and I have been in most contact. I didn't see Jeff when the band broke up till we reunited a year ago, and Phil I hadn't spoke to since then as well.
Is that right? Wow.
But you know, I guess I just landed my dream gig at 19, and then from there I kind of had to grow into this voice.
It's interesting. I mean, look, so many interesting things in that, particularly to the trajectory that got you to 19, when clearly how badly you want it, and a kid at this age now who can flick on YouTube all day long and access that stuff. But the flip side is that you had to catch a train at 6 o'clock in the morning, you know, and just put that commitment out to the universe to say, this is what I'm going to do, and I'll keep doing it until it works, is quite an amazing story. But what it also did, I think, there was a real next big thing tagging around your neck at that point. You know?
Man.
You know, like, and it was so big that it transcended. It wasn't just inside the industry. It was like, this kid is the shit, right?
And of course, I was by a lot of people, I was touted as the next
John Farnham. Yeah.
And that was.
I think I heard Ray Martin say that once.
You very well may.
Yeah. Was that hard? Was that?
Oh, it was unbearable.
Was it?
The thing is when you think about it, I mean, it's like, there's nothing wrong in that. Like, there's nothing wrong in, like, who could ask for a greater compliment?
Yeah.
And it was never me it was never me going, I don't want to fucking be like John Farnham. Like, it was never that. It was like, you can't, I just wanted to be the guitar player.
Yeah.
And all of the sudden,
you're on a hiding to nothing, really.
This pressure, to deliver. And I would look at John and go, the guy is a freak of nature. He's a superhuman. He's got superhuman vocal abilities. For God's sake, don't compare me to this guy.
Yeah.
Because the pressure was just, and I was not equipped at all to deal with any of that coming into that. Again, I just wanted to play in a band with Virgil.
Yeah. And the other thing too, you think at that age, because a lot of singers, and I think a lot of people in any field, I think it's you, mate. Yeah. Right. They will, I think a lot of singers only work out the sort of singer they are. They're probably in their 40s before they work it out. Particularly because we're all, as singers, you're doing a lot of different things all the time, and a lot of the stuff isn't within your comfort zone, and it isn't within your ideal capability. So, I think a lot of singers will get to a point where they go, this is what I'm best at, I'm just going to do this. This is, where I'm at.
Yeah.
But you go on, Southern Sons, you explode, you're travelling, the whole thing is brilliant. You've still got the wicked hair. And then you marry Rebecca Gibney, right?
Oh,
and this
is...
is...
Well, that happened at the beginning of all of that.
Yeah,
too. You would think it was just like the...
Well, this is front page of Women's Weekly perfection. How do you reflect on that whole section of life now?
Oh, it was a fucking catastrophe.
Was it?
I mean, don't get me wrong. It was amazing. It was great. But it was also a car crash waiting to happen.
Right.
Like, it was coming.
Yeah.
But you don't know what you don't know that you don't know, and you can't see what's in a blind spot.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I was just kind of winging it, and it was an extraordinary experience, but there was so much.
I mean, you're still a kid as well.
Yeah, I was a kid, and and I used to think that groups of people went to the toilet to keep each other company together. You know what I mean? Like, you don't see what you don't know is going, like, what's not there for you, was not there for me. I didn't see there was all this stuff happening in the background, and behind the scenes, that I just didn't, it's very hard to navigate your existence when you really have no idea of what's really at play. However, it was a great education, and it taught me so much about me.
Right.
Yeah, even the difference between who I thought I was and who I actually was, and you know, like it really revealed a lot of things for me. And that took probably up until, I don't know, 20 years ago to 25 years ago to really process. I mean, it's only really in the last 10 years for me, I think, if I was to be real honest, that I've just felt comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah.
You know, like not have to be the guy that's like laughs at every joke that someone makes, or not that you have to be an asshole about it, but you don't have to now that to make everyone happy, to try and please everyone, to not be like, oh, you know, don't offend anybody, or don't say the wrong thing, or, you know, I used to be so concerned with upsetting the apple cart. What if you go and do an interview and say something and someone doesn't like it?
You got no issues on here, mate.
No, I'll fucking go for it. Hey, woo! So, you know, that's been a gift, really, that whole experience. And so many great things came of it. I mean, I met Dweezil Zappa, who's a dear, like I consider, even though we don't like talk every week, I consider him a dear friend. And that family loved me.
Right.
During a time where I just felt completely unlovable, and completely just incapable of receiving love from anybody.
Wow.
And you know, like that was and you know, I probably did some of the best guitar playing that I've ever done with some of the greatest musicians I've ever had the opportunity to work with. Like, you know, what a gift. And if I hadn't sort of signed up for that whole other thing, that may never have happened, you know. So I have a lot to be thankful for that.
You might not have ended up with All Fun and Games and me.
Well, I definitely wouldn't have ended up here.
It's no midday show with Ray Martin. But then like, there's that trajectory which is very, very common. You come out on the other side and you're out of work.
Yeah, you know, well, there was a good 15 years where I couldn't get arrested.
Yeah, and
I tried.
How tough? How tough is that? I mean, how do you reflect on that bit now?
Yeah, look, that was definitely challenging. That wasn't without its challenges. And I was in like an incredible relationship. Right. Like at that time, like the post Rebecca, you know, post sort of sons, I don't know, identity crisis? I don't know. I felt like that whole time was an identity crisis anyway, because I felt like I hadn't really crystallized what my identity was anyway. I didn't really know what I wanted either, out of like even life. If you'd asked me, I would have told you, I would have given you an answer. However, I didn't realize what was going on for me either. Yeah. So,
well, the problem there is if you think you know what you want and then you get it, and then you're like, okay, so what now?
Yeah, well, that's right. And on a personal level, you know, I was in an extraordinary relationship that was really, you know, I guess I'd paid in advance for that from the previous one.
Yeah, okay.
But what I didn't realise was, you know, because like when it comes to kids and having a family and stuff, if you'd said to me, do you want to have kids? Oh, I want to have 10 kids. Like, I want to be a dad.
I reckon that's too many, but yeah.
Yeah, as well. Well
just
most people would have said,
speak from experience.
Try one and see how that works out for you. But what I didn't realise was that there was a big thing going on for me about that I just didn't know was there for me. Okay. That was, you know, my father passed away when I was 6 months old. I lost my dad. So when it came to like making a baby, all of a sudden I had every excuse in the world to not have a child. You know, we can't afford it. You know, I don't have any work. I haven't worked, haven't had a gig for 7 years. You know, not a gig, but you know, haven't had like, you know, it was a real challenge. And but really, I was just making a lot of excuses for the fact that I thought I was going to have a child and die, and abandon that child and my wife. So it was a real, not to make things heavy, I know it's supposed to be kind of light,
no,
but that was
everything.
Life for me, you know, like that was what was going on. And you know, that didn't come up for me till 10 years ago. So that was there, that the whole time. That thing was there. I mean, when we talk about having kids, I'd feel like I was going to die. Like I'd really feel like you can't have a child, you're going to die. Like, so of course I'd make every of course that's not true. It's just not even real, not even remotely real. I'm still alive now.
Yes.
Could have made 10 kids in that time.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a pretty crazy thing. But if that whole thing hadn't happened back then, you know, it never would have taken me to this place where I kind of get to just be with that and go, well, it's good to know. It's good to know. So, and you know, in the last year, we've managed to just write all this material and be creative and put like, you know, because I wouldn't call this, even though they're called the COVID-19 sessions on my hard drive, I don't think there's anything about this time like that's in those songs. They're just really relationship and you know, humanity sort of based. But you know, there's a beautiful freedom that comes from realizing what's going on for you and what's running your show. Yeah. You know, once you get to be in that, you get to kind of go, oh, wow, life just gets a lot lighter. It's always there. Like if I was, I'm not going to say.
But knowing that it's there,
oh my God,
is the thing.
Yeah.
And that's a real running theme in a lot of these conversations we're having, that men get to their 40s somehow. And I don't want to exclude women from this conversation, but it's often, these are the nature of the conversations we're having, where that stuff is there, but where we think we're in control of our lives in the 20s and 30s, or we think we're in the prime of our lives in our 20s and 30s, where we're actually just distracting ourselves from that other stuff, you know. So it is, that's interesting. And it's just really interesting too that I think with, you know, and a lot of musos, you know, all of us have been in and out of work and earn millions and then earn nothing and whatever else. But someone of your, you know, pure talent in that very 0.000%, and you still can't get a gig. I mean, what that says about the industry and at certain times is quite remarkable.
And I think that I probably wasn't my own best, like I wasn't my own best friend. I wasn't the best friend to myself that I could have been. I could have honoured this. Well, but you know what? Hindsight's 20/20, right? Like, it's easy for me to look back and say that I could have maybe done things differently. Like, it doesn't mean that actually anything would have changed. It was only a year ago, or 2 years ago. It was only 2 years ago. That was where we first met.
Right.
I think it was where we first met. Did we first meet at Palms? My Palms gig?
Yeah, I was playing you there, yeah.
So that was the first time coming back playing the Sun songs. Yeah. And basically, I'd had a conversation with Darren, with Dee Dee, and I said, mate, he was hassling me to do it. And I said, look, let's just put this thing to rest. Yeah. I don't think anyone's going to come.
Yeah, wow.
I don't think anyone's interested. However, I put everything into that show, like that first show. I didn't hold back at all. I didn't half-ass it. I didn't like piss around and think, oh, I won't. You know, like I played full out for that show. Yeah. Because I wanted to give it its best shot. And it was only then that I really honestly believe that I kind of came back in a band setting where I could truly enjoy playing that music again. Because you know when you talk about you're talking about capabilities of you, like, you know, all your abilities in musically where you are, you know, as a songwriter or whatever. Phil always wrote like right on that top level of my ability.
Okay.
Where like I was reaching outside of where I really thought I was capable of all the time. So going back and doing those songs again was a real absolute full of head fuckery. Like I started singing them and thought, I can't sing these songs anymore. Like, and it was...
And you can't sing them because
I've been singing a completely different way, right, okay. and I hadn't been using that kind of part of my voice for decades. Yeah. Literally. And it was about a month out, and I said to Dee Dee, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Wow. This gig. I don't know if I'm going to be able to deliver this thing. Anyway, as it turned out, it just gave me and look, the moral of the story was basically that it was only up until a couple of years ago that I was really prepared to go and play these songs full out, like be committed to doing that, and give it its best shot. And I also think that the timing was right. I think if I'd done that 10 years ago, maybe no one would have come.
There's a real element of putting yourself out there with that, though. You know, you're standing there naked in front of people. Well, gee, it's funny to hear you say that, because I didn't realise it was quite that extreme in terms of how you felt and how...
I think I was just scared, mate, to be honest with you.
Well, and fair enough, but, you know, and which goes back to the stuff we were talking about the thing hanging around your neck at 19 and ending up at that point. But... I mean, obviously that show sells out. It was fucking great, by the way.
You just tapped into something there, because I felt something like immediately when you said that.
Yeah.
I just felt the same pressure. It was funny. It just like went. And I was like, hey, you know,
but we're sitting around at soundcheck, and there are a lot of cats working on that gig that they've worked with everyone from Farnham down, right? There are a lot of guys around there, guys that we'd all worked with on various times, and we're sitting watching you at soundcheck, and these are guys that are pretty hard to impress. And we're all looking at each other going, this is complete. This is just flawless. Yeah. And yet you're telling me that you weren't sure whether you could even pull it off when it was, you know,
I was shitting myself. Like, and you know, it was
so good.
Because I guess, even though I'm present to what was going on for me, it doesn't mean it wasn't going on.
Yeah.
It just means you can grab it, you can catch it. You know, it's like...
It means you have a sense of vigilance around it that you can sort of say, okay.
Yeah, Tanya and I call it thanks for sharing. It's like, so I didn't have the thanks for sharing before. What would happen is whatever it was would come in, that feeling would come in. And I guess, you know, some people, you know, do blow, some people drink, some people get hookers, some people drive fast cars. So, like, some people just go off the rails to try and manage that feeling, because it's huge.
To distract yourself
massive.
From the feeling.
Yeah, it's massive, and it's not a thing that, you know, it's completely irrational for a start. It feels like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, and it isn't. It isn't.
Yeah.
Nothing's there.
Yeah.
You're just going to do a gig. You're going to go and sing some songs. Guess what, mate? If you're lucky, some people will show up. They'll have a great time. Like, what's wrong?
There were plenty of people there with cassettes asking you to sign them.
Right? Nothing's wrong. But there's this mechanism that can really get in the way of you enjoying your experience, you know. And Tanya and I have this, Tanya Doko, for those of you who don't know, she's like my bestest little buddy. And we have this thing called thanks for sharing. And basically when that thing comes in, when that idea comes in, you know, maybe you're writing a song and this idea comes in, you're stuck, and this idea says, yeah, that's right, you're not going to finish this song. And maybe in the old days, I probably would have gone, you're right.
Yeah, okay.
And just thrown it away, But basically, you just say, thanks for sharing, I got a song to finish. And you just get back into it. You acknowledge it, you let it sort of, you know, come into your world, and then you just you just throw it away. And that show was an exercise in working that muscle, working the thanks for sharing muscle.
See, I had no idea that it was that extreme. It was so amazing to hear you say that, particularly too, because it was so great.
Yeah,
and even
I thought you were great. I mean, this isn't a bloody, you know, like, oh no, you were great. But I absolutely loved your set, and you know, it was only after that night that I realised your musical achievements, because you know. I don't pay that much attention to.
You got to look pretty hard to find
that. Well, it wasn't that hard to find it. Wasn't that hard to find it.
But you say you're a student. The thing that really stuck out about your teenage ending of this, you were a real student of the guitar and a student of music.
Love it, man.
Are you still a student in the same way? Are you still spending as much time? Yeah. Do you still practice the guitar?
Yeah, So every once in a while, Virgil will invite me to participate in something. Okay. And it's usually something that is fucking terrifying musically for me. And because I don't play that genre.
Jack Jones still gets terrified by stuff.
It's not hard. So, you know, But I always say yes first. I just go, yeah, that'll be great.
You bet, yeah.
And then I panic.
Yeah.
And then I get the music and I panic some more.
Yes.
And then I start, like I just sink my teeth into it and I'm overwhelmed and I think there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. And then something happens and you just push through. And it's like when you exercise. If you just exercise until you don't want to exercise anymore and then you stop, well, you know, that's where, you know, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right? So if that's going to be your approach, then you can expect that result, that you'll just almost get there all the time. But for me, it was always about pushing through. So I've learnt to circumnavigate that thing that makes me not want to do something by saying yes first. So I commit to it.
Yeah.
And then my integrity's on the line. So I've got to deliver something. And Verge is that guy that always has, selfishly by saying yes to it, what I get out of it is I get to deliver something that is greater than what I thought I was capable of. So he's one of those guys in my life that brings that into my
That he's still
world.
doing it now. He was the guy that, I mean, this was back at the start, and the fact that you still have someone that is,
'cause he's
pushing you in that way
Oh my God.
to this day.
And that guy, he practices 8 hours a day. Still.
Yeah.
Like he's an absolute beast. Like the guy is. I just saw one of his posts on Insta the other day.
Yeah.
He's in Italy at the moment, and he's running up this hill, and it's in fast motion, and the thing fucking goes forever.
Right.
Forever. It's like. It just keeps going, and then you hear. At the end, and he gets to the precipice. And I remember when I used to run the canyon in LA with a mate of mine, with Aaron Hendra. We used to go and do the canyon a few times a week. And every time I did it, I'd fucking hate it. I thought, I just want to kill myself. But you'd get to the top of it, and we'd look at each other, and we'd look down on LA, and we'd be like, you know what? We're on the top of LA today. We made it. We survived another day in this town. Like, we did it. And there's just something that, you know, and particularly during, I don't want to harp on this time, but particularly during this time, and, you know, Reg is another one of those guys in my world that's been that, and I got another mate, Storm, who, like, all of these people, like, really have believed in me a lot. Yeah. And I feel like that I have a responsibility to deliver for them.
Yeah. Well, that's why they're good for you.
Right? And you know, they don't judge, but, you know, they'll also just let you hang yourself out to dry. They'll just go, Wow. If I say to Reg, you'll get something on Friday, I'm shooting for Thursday. Yeah. Like, you know, I just want to be my word all the time with that sort of stuff. So, you know, it's important for me to just maintain the integrity on my work ethic. And during this time, I guess it's been a gift on, if you have to look at it some way, I've got to look at it. If I've got to, you know, I've got to take the silver lining with all this absolute garbage that we've, because, you know, mate, if I sat here and said, you know, it's been a fucking joy not being able to work for 10 months, you know, not really. Yeah. It's been the diabolical time.
It's been that shit.
It's been really hard.
And I think we're allowed to say it's shit.
I want to acknowledge that.
And it's funny, you know, it's very apt that you and I have this conversation because we were together when the news came, right? Brother. We're sitting there like this, right? Brother. And so I try to be a bit careful about those conversations because we understand that people have passed away and we understand that there are people that people we know can't feed their kids on the back of this. A lot of singers we know. You know. So, but at the same time, we don't want to underplay it for ourselves because this started as a pause. It's turned to a complete pivot. And this started as potentially the biggest challenge of our business lives, and it's turned into possibly the biggest challenge of our lives. You know, so it has been enormous, and all the stuff, and we've talked a lot about gratitude and making ourselves better and all that sort of stuff, and the conversations you have with yourself when your feet touch the floor, and are you in a negative thought pattern, all that sort of stuff. Gee whiz, we've had to call on that. over the last 8 months.
Yeah,
And we're not
thoughts.
we're not finished
No.
with that stuff. But the other thing that is really highlighted, just when you're saying about Virgil doing 8 hours a day, and this is the thing I think for the kids watching at home, if there are any kids watching at home, but just the fact that those right at the very top end are still as dedicated now as they were.
I'm still learning,
and that's what it
time.
takes. That I remember talking to Tommy Emanuel, who said, and it was like, and it's like, because I thought I knew how to play the guitar, and I didn't think I was great. I was like, I know how to play guitar, and then it's midday, and I said, do you still practice? He goes, what do you mean I still practice? It's lunchtime. I've done 3 hours already. What's a stupid fucking question? So that's interesting. Here's the question for you though: is singing hard for you?
It's getting easier. I think the thing that has made it hard for me has been not just being the inability to let go when I'm doing it.
Right.
So as I let go of the idea of what people thought of me, okay, so the Suns reunite, and in the middle of playing festivals, I get some horrific lurgy that Jeff had, and I lose my voice. So I've got to go out and sing, or attempt to sing in front of thousands of people. And
you're hitting some notes.
And those songs are not an easy sing. You can't blag your way through it, and people are expecting something.
Yeah.
I went and saw my ENT. He was like, you got to stop talking, you got to stop everything. I'm like, mate, that's just really not that's not an option on the table at the moment for me.
ENT's ear, nose and throat specialist.
Yeah, right. So he was like, look, there's no, he goes, your cords are ridiculously swollen, there's no bleeding, there's no bruising, but, and these songs require me doing things with my voice that take effort, for me.
They're acrobatic.
Then just, and really pushing it.
Yeah.
But the amazing thing that came from that was just this kind of sense of fate, guess what, mate? You got to show up and you got to sing this set. You got to do it. So, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Are you going to show up and be a fucking whiner
and
piss and moan and not enjoy it? And everyone else is. So in the end, I just went, I just have to give it up. I just got to let it go.
Yes.
You get the best that I've got every day that I show up to go to work. You're going to get the best of me, and if the best of me is me asking you to participate and help me sing along, then that's up to you guys. Yeah. But, I gave it my best every night, but really it was to answer your question is that for me it's so much more fun singing when you don't carry all that expectation around with you that no one puts on you.
But this is the thing that only
So I'm only starting to enjoy it now. I'm 49, man. And I'm just, if I could write something, if I could speak to my previous self, I would be drilling into that guy.
Relax, man.
Just don't worry. It doesn't fucking matter, mate. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
These are not the hills you want to die on. Enjoy this stuff. It's beautiful. Go out there and sing and give the kids what they want. Let them, just do it. You don't know how rare it's going to be for you to look back on the fact that you've had hits. You don't know how rare that is.
Yeah.
You're just having them. You think you're going to have them for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You think that they're always just going to, these magical hits are just going to, of course, and it's such a it sounds so egotistical or arrogant. It's the height of arrogance for me to say that now, but it was the height of naivety, believing that, I just thought if you practice and you work hard, then this stuff just comes.
But the thing is, it did.
Right? I know.
So your 16-year-old self says, I'll do this. And then it's so it did actually happen. And then it kept happening. And then so that's why I was asking why you reflect on that time, because you had no other information to suggest that's not the case.
No, and it all just unfolded. It was funny, I had I had a great hang with Roger Glover one night after when Electric Mirror was opening for Deep Purple, and Roger and I we had some really great hangs during that time. Had a great hang with Ian after a show one night. We watched the soccer, but we also had this hang back at the hotel bar, and we were outside. That was when I was on the darts. We were having a bit of a smoke, and he didn't smoke darts, but anyway, we were smoking, and he goes, a fan came up to me the other night and said, "Aren't you like, are you so surprised that, you know, that you're still doing this? Like, it must be such a surprise to you." And he goes, "Actually, it's not a surprise at all. It's exactly how I planned it." And he goes, when I was a kid, when I was at school, kids were drawing, you know, trucks and this and that. He goes, I was drawing stage plots with audiences with me on it.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, I understand that. Like, I get that was your dream. And when you just create your reality with all of those thoughts.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. It sounds so, I mean, I don't subscribe to the opinion that you could just sit at home and dream things and it'll happen for you, but maybe for some people it does. But I think if you really work hard and you're focused and you have those dreams, that you kind of just manifest it somehow. You know, Ron Lee once said to me, luck is when preparation and opportunity meet. So always do your best to be prepared.
Yep, just in case.
Prepare yourself, because, you know, you may, if you don't do that, if you don't prepare yourself, look, what you don't want to turn out to be in life is bitter and resentful and angry and spiteful, and you'll take it out on the people that you love, you'll take it out on the world around you. You won't be a great person to be around, like, you know, and if you don't do the work, you might miss those opportunities, and you may think that you're really unlucky, whereas you may have been really lucky, but you didn't deliver because you didn't put the time in. You're already building a case for things to not work out for yourself, you know. So I've always been of the opinion that, you know, you want to be responsible for your luck if you can.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean, look, if I auditioned for Katy Perry's, you know, guitar player gig and didn't get it because a 19-year-old got it, it might not be because I wasn't a good enough guitar player. It might have just be because that wasn't what they weren't looking for a guy of my age group, you know. But I'm not going to walk around and be upset about that either. I'm just going to be like, oh, whatever, I'll go make another record.
Yes.
You know, but I just feel like you got to hold yourself accountable and responsible for, you know, but you got to believe those things will happen for you too. Or you won't see them when they.
Yeah.
You know, when Verge called me up to sing in a band, if I just thought, oh, I can't sing in that band, I never would have put my other foot forward and said.
But you'd already gotten up every Saturday morning on the train at 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right.
So you're already there and already doing it.
And I do love it. Like, even though there were times when I didn't want to practice and didn't want to, you know, I still love it. The one thing that I really got out of music that was something I could, like, what I gave to it, I got back from it. And now as a songwriter, I feel like that about, you know, like writing songs. Like, I just feel like I'm such a baby when it comes to being a songwriter.
Right.
So, you know, now that's getting me up every day.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm practicing a little guitar. I'm getting in the studio. You know, Reg has been amazing. He was out the other day, built a frame for my console, and, you know, like, we were putting the studio together, and I'm thinking, oh my God, there's so much I've got to learn about this. Like, it's not enough time. Yeah. Okay. You know, again, if I'd had the presence of mind to not worry so much, I may have been able to get a little bit more done.
But the worrying is a bit of a singer thing, though, and this is a conversation a singer can only have with another singer. And please, people. Oh, I have for a long time. In that, well, what I was going to say is I'm not putting myself in your echelon as a singer or even close, because it's like this. It honestly is. But there is a pressure that when you sing in your 6 shows a week and the first thing when you wake up, fuck, have I had enough sleep?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to hit my notes right. I can't talk on the phone today. And there's a relentlessness to that.
Oh, yeah.
That I got to a point where I couldn't do that anymore.
Phil used to say that in our interview. Like, we go and do interviews, and Phil used to say, you don't, like, and he'd look, like, he'd be pointing to me because I'd be there with him, but he'd be like, for this guy, even though the show is like 2 hours, the other 22 hours is all about that 2 hours.
Every second of it.
Every second.
That's everything you do, every phone call, everything you eat, everything you're thinking is...
There's no dairy for this guy. There's no partying after the show for this guy. There's no late nights, you know, hanging out with everyone and meeting and greeting. It's like shaking a few hands and seeing the people that you have to see, and then it's off to bed for you, mate.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, that was something that I think compounded with, you know, I can get 4 hours sleep and go and play guitar. Like, I'm tired, but I can still show up and my hands will work.
You bet.
But, you know, as a singer, it's a completely different...
it's there all the time.
It's
and how good is it when you wake up and you go, I don't have to sing today and I don't have to sing tomorrow. It's like, doesn't matter if I'm tired. Doesn't matter.
And then I'm nervous about, like, whether I'm going to figure out how to do it. It's really full of...
And the problem is that you will have slept 4 hours some nights and you sing like a bird, and then other nights you're brilliant and you can't hit your top 4 notes, and you're like, you know. So that's the thing no one understands. But it is interesting to hear, you know, someone who is a complete singer like yourself to still have that pressure, and that you're probably
that, but I'm flattered by you.
And that you're probably a bit better at dealing with that now. You know.
Yeah, I just don't worry about it because it's like, you get what you get, you don't get upset.
Yes.
Like, this is the thing, man. You know, I would panic. Like, you know, I'd wake up 2 hours after I went to bed in a cold sweat. You know, my ears would be itching. I'd have hay fever. Oh, fuck, I'm not going to be able to sing.
Yeah.
I go, I won't have a voice.
Bet.
And the anxiety and the stress and, like, and if I could only go back and just say to myself, and not even say to myself, because everyone said it to me.
Yeah.
But if I could speak into the listening of my former self, and just say, communicate to that guy, really, the worry is only making it worse.
Yeah.
Like, the best thing you can do is just be in what you got, and don't worry. And you know, man. And look, ironically, technically, I should have more things to worry about now. Shit's on the internet. Jesus, your gig's on the internet before you finished it these days.
Yeah.
Like, people are recording your show, like, they're not even at your gig, they're at it.
Yeah.
You know, like, they're experiencing it through this little screen, and there's this huge thing happening, you know. And not that that's a criticism, but we live in this world where everything is so instant and it comes and goes so quick, and yet for us it's there forever. Like, don't worry, I don't read any reviews anymore.
Right.
I don't go and look at live shit that I've done anymore.
Don't you?
I don't do it. I don't fucking do it, man. Because, look, and I heard Joe Rogan talk about this too, because it's treacherous for me, because I'm so hard on myself. Like, I'm so tough on myself that, you know, the 10,000 things that are complimentary won't resonate. But the one prick the one fucking troll that's got to just fucking say something, you know, like, just got to have a little, you know, the armchair fucking critic, you know, whatever. Guess what? That's who I'm listening to. And I know that that's what my listening is. So, not that I give a shit about it these days, but I just don't indulge it, I don't entertain it, because it's like, you know what, here's my time is best spent doing other things.
Yes.
And even, you know, like, my time's better spent making music and writing songs and calling up my mates during this time and asking them how they're going.
Yeah.
Than reading, you know, if to, you know, see how many hearts I've got on something, or it's just not, a true indicator. And you know, it's a slippery slope. You know, so it's ironic that I care so much less about that stuff now, and there's so much more of it out there.
Yeah.
But I guess the flip side is, back in the day, you know, someone would be coming to review your show, and that was in a newspaper that didn't just come and go. It was something that someone sat at their breakfast table and their dinner table and read cover to cover, like every fucking article, every part of the arts section, every part of, you know, what was, you know, the financials, like what was happening in Melbourne, what was happening in Sydney, like what people used to do that, folks. They used to, you know, they used to really like pay attention, whereas people say stuff on the internet, even like say stuff now, they don't even think about what they're saying, the implications of it.
Yeah.
So I guess there was a huge gravity, a weight around a review that, you know, if so-and-so didn't like your record or so-and-so didn't like your gig, they could fucking crush you.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Whereas now, take your fucking best shot, like go for it. You know, like it's just, there's so many of them out there, like kicking around, that it just seems like, well, this person liked this person. You can't please everybody all the time. Like,
and that's something we've all got to get better at. Yeah. But if you want my review, and if I can tell you, I mean, I bullshitted my way onto a lot of bills over time, and a lot of, Stephen Bradbid my way onto some, you know, particularly early on, you know, tours with international artists and national artists I didn't deserve. But I can tell you, kids, this guy is the best that I've ever seen. And in 2021, if you're out, whether you're a member Southern Suns or a fan or whatever, if he's anywhere, you must go and check him out. He's going to knock your socks off. And if I'm on the bill, go a little bit earlier.
Well, you'll
brother, we haven't even finished this game,
I know.
But
well,
thanks for being on All Fun and Games, mate.
It's always a pleasure, never a chore. It's so good to see you, man. Thanks for having me. Sorry, I probably went way over time, but thanks.
Mate,
thanks, buddy.
We've learnt, I reckon we've learnt one or two things.
It's been a long time since we've seen each other, so it's nice to catch up.
Yeah, with better news on the horizon.
Yeah, that's right. Good 2021 coming, mate. Good 20.
Amen.
Good Christmas to you. Good Happy New Year and all that sort of business. And yeah,
I probably would have won, I reckon.
You were on the way, mate.